Okie dokie. So now we are starting on our owl. So I like to use primarily a nice pointed tip brush for this section. For most of the owl, actually, you can get a lot of fine details in with that tip. So if your brush is not perfectly pointed, then you're just gonna take a little dip of water, take a nice clean paper towel or a section of a clean paper towel, and just wipe it off gently, get that excess water off, and you have that nice point. So then I like to start with the yellows of the eyes. So I put a little bit of yellow in my palette here. I'm gonna take mostly yellow and then dip my brush into our white and mixing it on a clean section of the palette. I'm gonna create a pale, like egg yolk yellow after you've made deviled eggs, maybe. Nice pale yellow. And I'm going to be filling in the eyes here. Part of them will get covered up by the pupil, but I just like to make it a nice clean edge all the way around. Fill in what you drew earlier. There we go. Getting that nice. You don't need too much paint for this. It's a small area. And then there. And if you also want a yellow moon, this is when you already have that yellow mixed. You can put that on there. Since I got a little bit of the blue paint on my moon, I'm probably gonna do a white base first and then add in the yellow. And just a little bit for my moon. I don't really like super yellowy moons, but nice off-white does the trick too. So we're gonna keep focused on the owl, excuse me. So we're gonna have an off yellow kind of brown beak here that we're gonna now mix up the color for. So taking your yellow again, just the yellow. You don't need to have the pale yellow for this. You're gonna mix in brown to get a nice beak color. It kind of looks orangey, kind of like a mustard orange at this point. Let's see, that looks good. I'm just gonna tint it with just the tiniest, really, really tiny amount of black. Just so small, because black is a very dark color, and whenever you mix it, you gotta use tiny amounts and just build up the color. Even if you don't see the change initially, that's okay. That means you're doing it right, and you can always add more, but you can't take it out, especially when you're mixing into much lighter colors, because then you'll just have to, if you make it too dark, then you're just gonna have to add a lot more of that light color. They don't get as far. Okay, so I want a little bit more brown. Really mix that till I get the exact shade I want. Pretty happy with that one. So, and the nice thing about this is the beak typically ends up being right around the same size of that brush. So you can actually just put that point down and gently swipe up, only applying so much pressure so it fills in that space. And you can still see those pencil marks, so you can take more, let it dry, and then build up that layer a little bit. Or, since it kind of coincides where the beak curves down, it works as a shadow. You kind of drew in a shadow earlier to your beak, and it gives it that nice outline. I'm gonna darken it up on the sides. So tint that same color, and you can just outline the sides a little bit more to really give it some dimension. There we go, that looks nice. If you get outside lines, don't worry, we'll cover it up with feathers in our feather brush strokes later. And then I'm just gonna create a little highlight in the center to give it the impression that the center is the very peak of the beak. So just a little bit of white added to that. And if your brush gets bogged down with paint, you're not gonna have a nice tipped brush instead. It's gonna kind of get changed in shape. So if it's getting too thick with the paint, you just gotta wipe it off. Maybe do a little swish in your water bath. Nice little swish. Turn this over. Clean it off. Make sure it's nice and dry because we don't want to dilute our paint. It'll get really runny and then you'll just have to wait until it dries to add on more. Take a little bit of white, mix it with that yellow from the Beak, or brownie yellow. And get enough on your brush that you'll actually see it when you put it down. And just down the center, do a little bit of that lighter color. Give it that highlight. And it's gonna be pretty subtle, and that's okay. I like it to be more subtle on mine. Little tricks of the eye. That it'll pick it up, it'll give it that shape. And there we go. The bases of the eye and the beak are done. Pretty easy, right?